Welcome back to Magic Hour Podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Taylor Paige.
And this is Claire. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone.
Here we are for the March energy reading. Before we get into this, we are in February at time of recording. February just began. And I just have to comment on how interesting it is to me because I know that these themes are really, I'm talking about them on the interpersonal, individual level, but of course that affects the collective. And our theme for February was seeing clearer than ever before. And then how seeing clearer than ever before creates maybe bigger picture questions or fog. And I was like, how interesting that 2 days before January, the Epstein files, 3 million pages are released. And throughout February, people are going to be piecing things together and looking at things and seeing clearer than ever before. I was like, that's very interesting to me.
Yeah, I truly hope that it will allow us to see clearer around that topic and take some action so that we can have a change.
Me too. And I hope that this can like transcend party and politics and just be a clear example of like what we will not accept.
Yeah. Feels like we live in a world where the rules don't apply to a certain, group of people. And I really hope that that can change. The rules need to apply to all of us.
Could not agree more. Rich, powerful men need to
Be held accountable.
be held accountable. Yeah, it's like they don't pay taxes. They also don't follow laws. It's like, okay, you guys, we can't keep doing this. And I am looking at time of recording for a scholar to bring on the podcast that specializes in matriarchal societies. Because I think, in order to heal from patriarchy, we need to learn about matriarchy and then find a healthy balance of like things that work and learn from societies that have already done it. It's like we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to have all the answers. We need to look backwards and look at some of the things we lost that used to work.
Love that. I saw someone speaking about that and they talked about it in a way that I never learned about. So I feel like there's this idea that, matriarchy just replaces like women being in control. And the way that she described it, I thought was just so powerful. She said that patriarchy centers the needs of men and matriarchy centers the needs of the most vulnerable amongst us. And I was like, wow, that is such a beautiful shift. And so in alignment with, kind of how women generally move through the world, they're really looking to take care of their families, their children, their communities. And so, yeah, I would love to have an episode about that.
And the last thing I want to say about seeing clearer than ever before is that I think like Pluto and Aquarius is so much about like collective liberation and looking at the shadow side of all of these like humanitarian themes and collective themes. And I think that it can be so uncomfortable, but I think with how dark this time period that we're navigating is, it is like bringing it all up to be seen, which is ultimately better than this like cancerous, infected, shadowy tumor creating all of these symptoms and us being in fight or flight reacting to the symptoms. Like we are seeing so deep right now, and it's so uncomfortable and it's so disgusting and it's so abhorrent, but I think it's so necessary for us to see so that we can actually understand what needs to change and heal. And Pluto's big thing is like, how bad does it have to get before you let it go? How bad does it have to get before you make a change and let something die? I think we're really living through those collective times.
I agree. It reminds me of what we talk about with just our own inner shadow work. It's like you have to look at it. You have to shine that light on it in order to understand what's really happening and how you can make a shift. And I think on like a societal level, that's so true. Like we have so many shadows as a species, and certainly in the West, in our societies, like we have so much we need to be real with ourselves about and look at collectively so that we can stop walking that same path. It's so important to look at.
Yeah, 100%. And if we don't look at it, then it will always be the man behind the curtain pulling the puppet strings, and we can never really move forward with intention. And so, going into the energy for March, it is another really big energy month. And February just started. It's like February 3rd at time of recording. And I'm already feeling the intensity of this month of February. And I'm sorry to report that March also really feels energetically big to me. And as I was tuning into it, I almost felt this like thickening of energy, is the best way I could say it. It felt like things are really becoming dense or congealed in this way that forces us to look at them. Like it's almost like all of the shadowy particles like binding to each other in this dense way. And then we have to see it instead of like dancing around it or avoiding it. It's like this confrontation of shadow. That's not the theme for the month, but it's just a signature that I felt. Like I feel like a lot of people are going through a lot of really deep healing, deep processing, a lot of questions about the future. Like it just feels like a moment where we can't run from our shadow. And so the theme for March, as I was tuning in, was actively choosing and fostering the light. And the word active here is very important because I think sometimes in the spiritual spaces, we can be very passive and give our power away and be like, okay, universe, like I'm ready. But like, how are we actively fostering and choosing light and being just as fierce and audacious and warrior like for light as the people that are not in the light, as the people that are doing things to harm other people? How can we be just as fiery for the light? And the message that came through around this theme is like there's so many reasons right now with these layers of energy, both collective and personally, to have fear, to despair, to worry about the future. And it's an act of resistance to actively choose the light, to build, to create, to connect, to speak up, because light isn't just illumination and dispelling the shadows. Light is also clarity, enlightenment, seeing things in a new way. So there are just these ways that fear and scarcity create these powerlessness vacuums that make everything feel so small and limited when you're connected to those frequencies. Like it takes options away and it makes you feel powerless. You can only focus on the problem. You can only focus on what you don't have. And to choose the light is to like illuminate, expand, see clearly, stay in what I can create and how I can love and what would love do right now, as my aunt says. And through that, I saw this image of the light reaching farther places than ever before through us. So this is kind of like interwoven this month with like the collective and the individual, but I really feel that we are, through actively choosing and fostering the light, examples for other people to do the same. And it's starting to create a ripple effect of consciousness really waking up in new ways. And despite the heaviness of all of this like congealing shadow, solidity, intensity that I was feeling, I see this just like human chain of people choosing the light and it being so powerful because of what shadowy times we're in. Like on a soul level, it's extra powerful that we're choosing to be the light in these times. And so the dark is going to try to like scare us and disempower us and keep us in this victim consciousness place or make us feel caged. And I do feel like for this month energy report, there is a mental health warning, just like for February, where like anxiety, depression, people who struggle with things like that, like really take care of yourself and give yourself what you need and have resources and support because it feels deep and it feels layered and it feels like it's testing us. And every time, despite all of that, we choose to co create with the light. We are like on our highest timeline and what the energy is asking for us this month.
Well, I couldn't relate to that more. I've had some deep feelings come up and stuff that I am working through. And yeah, it's challenging when that stuff happens. So if you're going through that as well, lean on your people. And I really felt this morning as I was kind of dragged. Mornings are really hard for me. I don't know if you feel that way too, but it's like I wake up and my brain's like, remember, you're sad. And you're like, oh yeah. And then all the sad, hard things like pop up. But, today I've just been really trying to shift my focus. Taylor and I were talking about this before we started recording. Like, where am I just stewing in and ruminating on the hard thing? Not that you shouldn't hold space for what's coming up, but you can still honor and hold space for that and then choose the light. Then choose to refocus yourself on three things you're grateful for, on a person in your life who makes you feel really seen and held, on something about yourself that you're so proud to be. You know, we always have that beautiful option to shift our focus. It doesn't maybe solve what you're struggling with, but it is a way to like give ourselves some peace in a moment that might be hard.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And another facet of fostering the light that I want to share, because there's a lot of layers to the energy this month. One of the facets of this is shining our light, meaning letting ourselves be seen as our authentic self. So, like some keywords around fostering the light and actively choosing the light in this arena is like emboldened expression, caring less what other people think, living more truthfully, more boldly, being more like vulnerably loud and open with our truth. And I think that that's also real medicine for what we need right now.
Yeah, I know you know that that's a big thing I'm trying to do as well. I've always felt like I'm too loud, too much, and I'm going to try and be even louder. That's my new goal.
Ugh, that just gave me chills. Yes. And you know what? Theater majors and actors, we can fill arenas with our voice. And if that,
That's a gift.
it's a gift. And also, anybody who says that is not worthy of that light and expression. It's like, okay, well, then you do you over there, and I will attract the people who are my soul family.
Exactly. And when we allow ourselves to be our full self, then we can attract our soul family. If we're playing small to appease a certain group of people or a certain type of person, then we can't even give ourselves access or give the people that are our soul family access to our light because we're hiding it away. So, when you choose yourself in that way, know that you're also choosing to call in or align with the people that will be on your frequency.
Yeah, I see us all as like these puzzle pieces and how we fit into life. And when we're not being our authentic self, our puzzle piece is not the shape that it's meant to be. It's like copying someone else's puzzle piece or a puzzle piece that we want to think we should be in the shape of, but then it doesn't connect with anything. And when we are our authentic self, we fit into the piece of the puzzle exactly where we're meant to be.
Yeah, it's such a good way to think of it. And like, what a disservice then we're doing to the other puzzle pieces that want to fit us if we're shape shifting out of our unique frequency. Don't rob the world of your unique light. We don't need more people to conform and hide. We need people to shine brightly. And that allows and encourages other people to shine brightly. It's like that chain you talked about with the light. It's like we literally create that as examples and inspiration for others when we take that bold, courageous choice for ourselves.
Absolutely. And just as like a tiny little side note, my grandma is so cute and she's doing this like huge puzzle that she had to buy a separate table for because it's so big. Like I want to say like 5,000 pieces or something crazy, or maybe 2,000. I don't know the puzzle world, but it is crazy. And it's a puzzle that my uncle made for her that consists of 4 photos of them. And it's so funny because in 2 of the photos, they're both wearing black jackets. So she just has like thousands of like little black puzzle pieces. And she's like, why were we both wearing black jackets? Why? And she's like, like trying to complete the puzzle for so long. And it just makes me laugh for some reason. I want to share that.
That's so cute. That's so cute and wholesome.
I know. She's the best. So, going into the tarot card that I pulled for the month of March, I pulled the 8 of Cups. The key word for the 8 of Cups is shifts of energy and change, times of big shifts and changes. And sometimes when you pull the 8 of Cups, you can be a little burnt out. You can feel spread thin. You can have your hand in many different things at once. The waters can feel a little muddy or less like replenished and restorative. And so the messages I got as I pulled the 8 of Cups is that sometimes times of big shifts and changes can bring up self doubt, can bring up fear, can feel like we're dying on a nervous system level because a version of self is. And all of our protectors, the things that are trying to like keep us safe, but end up just keeping us constant vigilant and burned out and frustrated and all of these things, like this low grade discomfort of our protectors might be really heightened through times of shifts and changes. And for some people, you might just be really clear of like, I'm burned out or I'm done. Or maybe it's not even as black and white as like, I'm doing this thing or I'm fully leaving this thing. It might be relating to this thing differently or scaling back or reorganizing or restructuring, but there is a shift of energy. And so, for some people, if you're feeling restless, if you're feeling overworked, if you just know intuitively something needs to change, and maybe you know what that is, we're pushed to make a change. And again, how bad does it need to get to make a change, to choose to make a change? And so there's endings, there's making space. Sometimes just the shift is needing to scale back and carry less and do less and be kinder to ourselves and create more spaciousness to know what needs to fill the space or what wants to come next. So embrace the change, let yourself flow. And the feeling that I got with this Eight of Cups energy too is that, like, with the light and the shadow and the layers of energy and this congealing sort of shadow substance that I saw, there's a sense of like the old and the new paradigms of consciousness clashing. And it's happening on the collective and the individual. And change of consciousness is so slow. It takes so long. But we're in a moment where it's like slightly sped up. And that threatens a lot of old systems and ways of thinking and ways of being. So that's like on the collective, but also on the individual. Our consciousness is sped up and we're seeing new things, and it's clashing with old protectors and old systems and old things we chose for ourselves. And so I feel like we are in this kind of dance of one foot in, one foot out, seeing glimpses of the new, but it's not quite there. Just a little bit of that in between shifting, like changing of the guards energetically, like kind of still in this becoming state with like glimpses of what comes next, but maybe not quite sure, and just being easy with ourselves through that.
Yeah, I really feel that. And I think sometimes it can be so frustrating that change doesn't move faster on the collective and on the individual. Like, this past week, I felt like something I've been struggling with reared its head. And I just felt like, I just haven't made any progress. It felt like that, where I'm just like, I'm just still feeling the same way. And I just still can't get out of this thought loop and this painful pattern. And I think when we feel that stuff happen and when we go through that stuff, it feels like no progress. But I think that is the change. That is change happening, right? And it's like we've talked about that spiral too. It's like maybe I'm meeting that same pattern, that same thought loop in a new, slightly more open consciousness. And then the next time I get triggered, it'll be slightly more open. And then all of a sudden, maybe in April, I'll be like, whoa, I'm relating to this differently. I have this great dance teacher, and he would always say, when you come to class, just chip away at it. Don't come in and be like, I need to nail a double pirouette today, because you will not. And if you just chip away at it, class after class, suddenly in a year or 2 years, you will be doing it. And it'll feel like, oh, all of a sudden. But it's all that diligent, slight change. So I think just, have faith that change is happening, even if it feels slow.
Yeah. And it makes me think of what Dr. Michael Lennox says about dreams, that like just the act of having the dream is your psyche processing something. And so, what if just the act of like feeling the discomfort and sitting with those emotions and letting them play out and giving it time without judgment? What if that's already enough as well? Like what if on a deep psyche level, that's the point?
Right. That is the process of shifting. I think we think, or I look at it as like another setback, like you thought you were over this, but you're not. But it's like, maybe this is the process of me moving through it. I need to feel these things as I move through it.
And maybe there's deeper lessons about releasing judgment for yourself, like learning yourself and loving yourself for exactly how you are instead of trying to change it or control it or judge it.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's so easy to feel shame when we struggle. Like, I don't wanna be a person that is struggling. I don't wanna be a person that has a hard time with whatever, but that just makes me a person, you know? And I feel things really deeply, and that's a superpower as well. So I think, being gentle with myself, it's such a good point.
Yeah, 100%. And in the chipping away at it thing, that's like me trying to do a push-up. Still chipping away every like 1/16th of an inch at a time.
Yeah, but, like, good for you and good for you for trying, and sticking with it.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. So let's get into the astrology now for March. So we are in Pisces season. Holla. February was Claire's sun and March is Claire's moon. So it makes a lot of sense that these messages are connecting for you. So Pisces is one of the most complex signs of the zodiac. So whether your sun, moon, and rising is in Pisces or not, this is important for us to know. One, because you guys are just going to learn astrology through these series, listening to them. And two, because the sun is in Pisces. So the collective consciousness and like shining the light of awareness is illuminating Pisces themes, which makes it relevant for all of us going through Pisces season. So Pisces is a really hard sign to even put language to because it's like the void. It's dreams, it's spirit, it's psyche, it's all of these intangible healing spaces. And the Virgo Pisces polarity is one of deep healing. Virgo is healing of like the mind and the body, and Pisces is healing on a soul level and a psyche level. So Pisces is so layered because it is the sign with the highest capacity for love. Like Neptune is the higher octave of Venus's energy and it's unconditional love. It will lose itself in love because it loves so deeply. And the shadow side of that is that when you have no boundaries and you've lost yourself in love, the shadow side of that can be like martyrdom, losing yourself in others, escapism, not knowing what's real or what's not because those feelings of love are so strong. So, some of the gifts of Pisces energy is like creativity, deeper love, compassion, forgiveness, really like romance, like romancing life. Pisces rules photography and film, poetry. Like Pisces is just this really deep, beautiful, creative, loving sign. And because it can love so hard and because it feels everything so deeply, the shadow side of Pisces is that like self sabotage, addiction, secrets, sometimes substance abuse, addictions in all form, whether it's like TV or food or anything, shopping, the self sabotage, the fantasy and escapism. So that's kind of like the spectrum of being. And I really think the shadow sides of Pisces energy is just to cope with the way that like the world is not in alignment with love and that perpetually disappoints Pisces.
Yes, that is me. I feel that so deeply. It's like, man, I feel love so deeply. And sometimes it can be painful to feel like the world doesn't reflect it on that same level of intensity, or like other people, other partnerships. Like, it can be a lot to feel so deeply. And it's so beautiful. But I think sometimes, yeah, it can feel a little lonely or isolating.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Pisces is where the North Node is until June 26th. So this is part of eclipse season as well this month. Eclipse season is alive and well when this episode comes out. And so the North Node in Pisces is teaching us lessons of unconditional love, compassion, forgiveness, endings, release. And that's a part of Pisces too, is that it's the last sign of the zodiac wheel. So it holds a little piece of every single other sign, which means it can really like empathize and understand and hold space for all of these different consciousnesses. And so there is a current of Piscean energy, which is like endings, release, mastering the lessons, letting things go. Pisces also rules like mental health and psyche. Well, mental health is kind of more Scorpio, but psyche is more Pisces. And Pisces rules dreams. So those with a lot of prominent Piscean energy have strong dreams. That's why, Claire, when you were like, sometimes the morning is hard for me, it's probably because you were processing things so deeply in the dream world. And there's still like because grief dreams, those are the worst and they will set you off for the entire day. So I understand what you're saying. So with the North Node in Pisces right now, it is this moment where on a soul level, it's like, are we listening to our dreams? Are we connecting spiritually? Do we have faith in the bigger picture? What are our dreams? All of these things. And it's just a really powerful portal of realignment. And it's a really good season to have a dream journal and write down your dreams and pay attention to what your psyche is telling you in that symbolic language.
That's a great idea. There's just such a magical world in our dreams. I wish I could capture more of it, you know? So it is great to be able to do a dream journal and really see what comes up because like you said, I don't think there's even that pressure to like do something with it. It's more just like illumination and stuff you are currently processing while you're sleeping.
Yeah, and for me, when I, like, interpret a dream and I get what it was trying to say, that's it. That's the point. Like, the message was received, the messenger can stop. I got it. So, I think that there's something so rewarding about decoding your dream and, like, having that aha moment of what it was trying to say, and it just resonates with you so deeply.
Yeah, for sure.
So Pisces is also one of the signs that can attract people, like its sister sign of Virgo, but especially Pisces can attract people that need fixing or healing or saving because Pisces shines such a bright light and that light illuminates the shadow in other people. And so it's almost this interesting catch 22 where the person is attracted to that light in the Pisces, but then it reveals some of their shadow and healing work that they have to do. And then that's like a cycle that keeps happening. And so I think a karmic soul lesson for Pisces is that love and trust need to be earned and they need to be proven to you before you fully give to everything to somebody. And I've seen that a lot with a lot of Pisces, where there's just this deep lesson of just because you can feel and hold space and fix and have compassion and can understand why this person is the way they are, doesn't mean it's for your highest good. It's not worth it to sacrifice yourself to try to rehab someone else.
Yeah, definitely a challenge I face for sure. And it's hard to know where that boundary lies, you know, because I think it comes from a really good place. You know, it comes from this like vast well of love and like empathy and understanding. But, you know, you can't pour from an empty cup. And if you aren't being honored in what you're giving, then the energy of what you're giving becomes really painful, I think. And so it's definitely something I currently am still working on to really like uphold and honor myself in my relationship so that I'm not giving more than I'm also being supported and receiving.
Yeah, it's like you guys need a safe container to fill with all of your waters, and they need to, like, build that before you fill all your waters into it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And because of that, so Pisces is a mutable sign, which means like super, super sensitive to the people they're around, the environment. So Pisces season for us is going to be a time where we feel everything so deeply. Our sensitivities are heightened. It's a really great time to like tune into your divining practices. I mean, you know me, that's a lifestyle, not just Pisces season. But if you're thinking about getting back into it or recommitting, it's a really good time for it. And so it's so important for Pisces season and all of the mutable sign seasons, but especially Pisces, to surround yourself with people you vibe with, to have strong boundaries, to have alone time. Pisces and Virgo both need a lot of alone time to like recharge sometimes, and just not putting yourself around people that constantly like neg you or are mean to you or drag your energy, which is just an extra heightened time to really protect your boundaries.
Yes. Such a great lesson for every time, but a good moment to really practice that.
Yeah, it's like, you know, no astrology thing happens on an island, but wherever the sun is shining in whatever sign's mansion, it's highlighting those things at the forefront of our consciousness. So it doesn't mean, for example, Leo's energy of following your heart and passions and all those things aren't important too. But it's like we can only do so much at once or focus on one lesson at once, you know? So that's where Pisces is really coming in for us. And like the Pisces lesson is really learning to navigate being a spirit and a human at once. And spirit is all love. That's why Pisces, as like the great spirit, Neptune, is so loving. Like it forgets that there's boundaries and separations and stories of self and just loves. And of course, that's healthy. Pisces is like that lover. There can also, of course, be so many factors. Like if you have a narcissistic, abusive Pisces mom, like that's not what I'm talking about. So just know that any sign can have anything going on with them. So, yeah, learning discernment, coming from a place of self-worth, finding the grounding. I think that's what's really interesting as the signs exist on a polarity, as I always talk about. It's not just like Pisces floating, it's anchored by Virgo. And the first six signs are the recipe to healthy embodiment of the second six, as I say. And I think it's no accident that the earth signs are the sister signs to the water signs, because to healthily have that watery energy, we need to have that grounded, earthy energy, or else we're just floating away on a cloud. And so the Virgo Pisces polarity is deeply about healing, like I was saying before. And right now, the South Node is in Virgo. And Virgo is the sign of like thinking and analyzing. It even rules worrying. Virgo is like the kind of closest to Earth angel energy, in my opinion. They want to be of service, they want to help people, they have a very pure heart. They're very attracted to like animals and old people and kids and just these innocent creatures that they want to help. And Pisces has a flavor of that too because they're sister signs, but especially Virgo. And so Virgo is like, before you go to this dreamy, ethereal Piscean realm, Virgo is like, what are your systems? Are you organized? Are you logical? Do you have a plan? And then when you've mastered those, like taking care of your body and your mind, then you can unlock the realm of the soul. When you've mastered your routines and discipline and productivity, then you have the structures to actually create your dreams in the physical world. And so people that are all Pisces, 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 but don't have a healthy relationship to the Virgo archetype can be so lost in their dreams that they never know how to actually build them out.
That makes sense. It's so cute too. My roommate and bestie, Mandy, who I always talk about, is a Virgo rising, I think. And so it makes so much sense that we found each other in this life and that we always talk about how we're this like beautiful yin and yang. And so just everything you're saying, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense that, she really grounds me. And I just love that.
I love that. I don't think I remembered that she was Virgo rising, but that makes a lot of sense. And so Virgo really exists in like the material realm. It likes to like take things apart and rebuild it and know how things work. And then with that knowledge, then Pisces exists in the spiritual creative dream realm. And it's just necessary for Virgo to be integrated before we can have healthy Piscean energy. So, yeah, it's still eclipse season, which is going to be felt until the Libra full moon next month. Technically, it won't be eclipse season for that entire time, but we will still be in a lunar cycle kicked off by eclipse season. So there's still a little something something with that energy. So yeah, it's a moment to like all of March is like big change. I wasn't surprised when I pulled the 8 of Cups and when I felt all of the layers, like, check out what I said about eclipse season in February, but it's a time of big change. It's a time of alignment with our soul lessons. With the South Node in Virgo, we're moving away from overthinking, worry, grasping, losing the forest for the trees, taking care of our physical bodies better. And we're moving towards like faith and spirituality and what our dreams are and compassion and feeling and letting, like, kind of feeling our way forward instead of thinking and grasping and controlling our way forward has been the real big lesson collectively. And so that might be highlighted if you have a lot of mutable energy, which is Virgo, Pisces, Sagittarius, and Gemini. This eclipse season might be a little extra something, something for you. So, yeah, it's just a big, big portal.
Can you clarify what mutable energy is? I know there's like fixed signs and mutable signs.
Yeah, so the triplicities are cardinal, mutable, and fixed. And cardinal is like the initiator; it starts things off. Fixed is like in the dead center of that energy and just kind of stuck or fixed in that frequency. And then mutable is like adaptable and flowy and kind of takes the shape of the container. So cardinal is important to like kick things off and get things going. Fixed is important to like see them through and commit, and mutable is like adaptable and looking at new strategies and compromising. So they all have their kind of blessings and shadow sides depending on if they're imbalanced or not. And so Pisces and Virgo are part of the mutable signs. So starting off March 1st, Saturn and Neptune are still conjunct. So Saturn, which is like discipline and time and lessons and delays and structures, is conjunct Neptune, the ruler of Pisces season. So what Neptune is doing right now is extra important in Pisces season. And Neptune is like, no rules, no boundaries, just love and creativity and dreams in the ocean. Pisces season is a good time to like go to the water, visit the water. And so this can be really frustrating and really hard. And I did a deep dive on this for the February energy report. So go check that out if you haven't yet. I don't want to spend too much time on it here, but just know this energy is still happening through the month. It will be felt, it will gradually lessen through April and May and start to get lighter and lighter as the year goes on. But in March, we're still firmly in this Saturn Neptune conjunction as the month starts. They're both hanging out at 1 degree of Aries. And so, again, this is that mental health warning. It's the feeling of the brakes being pumped and fog and not sure really what's coming next and soul lessons and really being asked to feel our way forward, intuit our way forward, dream our way forward instead of try to like predict, control, and push forward. So go back to what I said, but it's this like integration of duality is really a big part of it. And I talked about this in February too, about how 2025 and 2026 has been about such extremes and such duality. And we're feeling that in ourselves too, where we might have these moments of like euphoria and clarity and these moments of shame and heaviness. And we're like learning to not take the worst parts of both of those or make them mean things, but just flow through duality and integrate it. And that's what like this Saturn Neptune conjunction of two very different energies meeting for us on the individual level is really about integration, loving each side of ourselves, finding patience through the fog and the delays and the obstacles, all of those things. And so March 2nd, my mom's birthday, and March 1st is my grandma's. Mars, the planet that is like our body, our energy, how we go for what we want, it's our inner warrior energy. Mars enters Pisces and will stay there through April 9th. And Mars isn't always super comfortable in Pisces, in my experience, because Pisces is like one love and Mars is the warrior. So sometimes when you have Mars in Pisces, you can be a dreamer, you can be a visionary, you can be very directed by the spirit world and very in touch with your intuition. But sometimes you can also be a little bit aimless or foggy or like letting fantasy move you rather than real stone cold facts, which also isn't always a bad thing if it's balanced with other things in the chart. Like sometimes if you have enough earth, like that dreaminess can help you take big risks or follow your dreams. Like it can be a really great counterbalance to some other things. Like Ari has a lot of Piscean energy with stuff and I see it in him, and it's like a good thing when it's balanced with all of his Taurus and other things. So it's not inherently like you're going to be lost in a fantasy, but it's just that's a shadow side of it. So as we know, March is really important because not only is it eclipse season, but Pisces and Aries is like the birth canal of the zodiac. So everything moving through Pisces is like cleansing and feeling and ending cycles. And then it's reborn in Aries. And March is the month where the sun goes from Pisces to Aries. And that's why it's also the spring equinox on March 21st, which is like the official new year. So March is this really transient time where we're ending cycles and then the new year is starting. And I think that's why in the beginning I was seeing that kind of half in, half out or in between spaces and just it's transitions are always clunky in some way and just having peace with yourself through that. So Mars in Pisces, it might activate for us on a collective just old anger, old themes around masculine energy because Pisces is like the void, it's our psyche, it's our like deep subconscious. And Mars is like anger, aggression, warrior energy. It can even be like masculine energy. And so Mars in Pisces might ask us, like, how are we relating to these Mars themes? How do we go for our dreams? How do we go for what we want? Are our energetic strategies working for us? Is there any old stored anger in the void that wants to come up and be processed? Yeah, it's just a great time to dive into your deeper divining tools and like let spirit lead. Here's what's really cool. On March 3rd, aka 3/3, the Virgo full moon eclipse happens at 3:33 a.m. Pacific time.
Shut up. And you know, my number for this year is 33.
How fun is that?
That's so cool.
And I'm a life path number 3, and then this is a 3-year for me. So there's all the threes here right now.
I love it.
And so I just want to say the angel number 333 is really tied, and my association with 333 is goddess energy. It's creative. It's about like regeneration and rebirth and transformation. It's about creative energy in that way, and also creative energy with like new projects and passions and things like that. So goddess energy in all of the forms, like the personal application to that in our transformative journey, and also the creative application of like creating life, creating businesses, creating structures, creating projects, all of those things. So really powerful. I love the number 3. And so the full moon in Virgo is ruled by Chiron, and Chiron is our inner wound and our inner healer. The part of us, as I say, that when we really listen to it and heal it, it shows where we can be leaders of healed consciousness in that area. And Chiron has been moving through Aries, and a lot of Aries have been going through some deep, deep stuff, prominent Aries placements. And so as an Aries rising, I've definitely felt Chiron moving through. It's kind of past the worst of it now, but it was sitting right on my rising sign, and boy, did I feel it. So Chiron and Aries can be like inner child wounds, wounds around anger, wounds around going after what we want, identity, stories of self, authentic expression, bravery, being the boss of our own life, feeling powerful, taking risks, being single or feeling lonely as Aries. So there's so much there. Old anger, how we handle anger, all of these things. So the full moon in Virgo is already like, especially during eclipse season, extra heightened, just a healing energy. Like, where are we on our healing journey? Where are these themes coming up? And then with this full moon, Virgo is co-ruled by Mercury, and Mercury will be retrograde, which is another part of this energy that connects back to February. I feel like February and March are very energetically connected this year. And so go back to hear my whole rundown of Mercury retrograde that I did in the February energy report. But the sun is in a loose conjunction with Mercury retrograde, and it's opposite the full moon. So this is a time to really pay attention to your thoughts, pay attention to loops of uncomfortable thoughts, watch out for your inner villain voice. Mercury retrograde just really might feel like an exclamation point, like tech issues and communication and mishaps and forgetting things, or like whenever these planets are doing the most, it's a good time to make sure you're present, not rushing, double checking things, leaving space between appointments as much as possible. Another message with Mercury retrograde opposite the moon is like thinking before you speak, not letting emotional triggers have you saying things that you don't really believe, and really watching like the stories that you're telling yourself. And a distinction I wanted to make with this Mercury retrograde opposite the moon is that verbal processing is different than speaking your truth. And I think that sometimes in this world of like, speak your truth, speak your truth, speak your truth, I think people forget or don't really make the distinction sometimes, the difference between verbal processing and truth. And I think verbal processing, it's like, I felt this way and this is what happened and blah, blah, blah. And you're just talking through it. And that can actually, like when I say you can never lose something meant for you by speaking your truth, I don't mean verbally processing in ways that might hurt people's feelings or be in victim consciousness. It's like we have to verbal process. We have healing tools. We might journal, and all of that helps us get to our truth. And sometimes actually getting to our truth is like a little bit of a journey. But I like had this situation where someone felt the need to leave me like a 3-minute long voice note about something. And she was like, "I just wanted to speak my truth to you." I'm like, "That was verbal processing. There was no truth in that." And so I just wanted to make that distinction because it feels thematically relevant.
Yeah, I've never thought about it like that, but it really makes sense. And I mean, I am such a verbal processor. I found that out too. I mean, I already knew that, but when I did my human design, that was one of the things that came through, and I was like, mm-hmm. And so, we really talked about that, like maybe even journaling isn't as effective for you as just like talking it out with a friend or even with yourself. And I really feel that. And how often have we been, spinning in a negative thought loop, and then we say it aloud, and that allows us to verbally process it and like hear it, hear how untrue it is, hear how much of a story it is that we've cooked up or that we love to turn to when we feel this way. And so I think verbal processing is so, so powerful and so helpful, and why therapy is so great, and why friendships and leaning on friends in those moments and getting it out of your head is so great. But yeah, really understanding that that isn't necessarily truth. It's a way that you can get to the truth and then be able to speak it from a place of knowing versus just like sorting.
Yes, exactly. And especially if it's to do with the person that you're verbally processing to. And then you're like, okay, I spoke my truth. And so if they're gone, that means that they weren't meant to be mine because I spoke my truth. And it's like, maybe not, because maybe you said things that weren't actually true. That time will reveal that to you. But while you're activated or heated or in the wound or wanting to hurt them back, it like came out.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important, like, not to send that text when you're in the throes of that feeling, or not to like call that person or make that post. It's like, let yourself process. And on the other side of it, once your nervous system has kind of settled again, then I think the truth can really reveal itself. And then we can decide, like, is this something I need to share with this person? Or is this something that I just needed for myself? So now I can adjust my boundaries or my expectation of them or how I show up. Not to say that there aren't moments to speak your truth and communicate with someone to try and better a relationship. But something I've really been learning is like, bigger than that is for me to heal the way I'm relating to this thing or this person, because I can't really make somebody behave any certain way. But if I'm expecting something of them or needing them to fulfill something, etc., I think just really the healing is about us and how we need to maybe relate differently to stuff. And I think when we put the onus on someone else of like, you need to change so I can feel better, it's like, maybe, or maybe, the shift is something I can be more at the helm of.
Exactly. And maybe the truth is like something a little deeper, more inconvenient, more raw, that verbally processing or trying to get someone to show up a different way is keeping you from. And that's a process that takes time, and that's totally fine. So, the theme, so full moons are times of release. And since this is eclipse season and this is a full moon eclipse, this will be a time where the universe is kind of telling us what to release instead of us trying to like manifest or make lists or vision boards. Eclipse season is more about realignment, checking in with like your soul level themes, what you came here to do and learn and experience, and course corrections where necessary, things coming in, new plot lines. So it's really big energetically. But some of the Virgo themes are the physical body, taking care of your physical body, health, routine, structure, even like details or design is very Virgo to me. How you want to be of service, how you take care of people and yourself. There can be like career stuff tied to Virgo as well, because Virgo rules like the actual work we do every day, whereas Taurus is like making money and building, and Capricorn is like career and bigger goals. Virgo is like what we actually show up to do every day, our work, our colleagues, things like that. So this might be a full moon for releasing some unaligned career stuff. Virgo rules what we worry about and anxiety. So there might be room for release around that. And I see like one of the biggest Virgo shadows, or when it's out of alignment, is when Virgo loses the forest for the trees. And it's like, I could do this, I could do that, I could do this. And they get so busy, but then lose the bigger picture of like, but what is this for? Is this moving towards my dreams? Is this a higher soul calling? Does this light me up? And that might be a theme coming up with this full moon too. And it's a south node eclipse, which means it's extra tied to like release and letting go and endings and yeah, those themes. And this full moon also sextiles Jupiter in Cancer. So that's like a nice little something something that adds a current of expansion and joy and magic and miracles to the cocktail of this full moon's energy. And also Chiron in Aries, which as the co-ruler of Virgo is important what it's doing, is in an exact trine to Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius at 24 degrees, which I found so funny because I love the Virgo precision of that like exact conjunction during the full moon. And Chiron in Aries is again that like inner child wound, all those healing themes around Aries. And Lilith is basically the witch wound in the chart. It shows the archetype that we as women don't feel safe to embody on some level. And so Sagittarius is like, where are we not embodying our wisdom? Where are we not trusting our own truth? Where don't we trust our own ideas, intelligence? Where do we keep ourselves small from like exploring and expanding and seeing what the world has to offer? So all of our healing journey is also helping us heal the witch wound around that Sagittarius archetype of like wisdom and trust and expansion, which is also a really nice energetic undercurrent to this full moon. So this full moon, other than like the Mercury retrograde stuff and the Chiron stuff and the eclipse season, that's all kind of like heavy hitting. But there's also some really nice undercurrents of energy for like expansion and growth and up level and joy as well. And to like piggyback off of that, March 5th, the sun in Pisces trines Jupiter in Cancer. And for any of these transits, it'll be most powerful on the day I'm saying, but just take it as like 3 days before, 3 days after. It's kind of like a felt period of time. So this is just a nice boost of optimism and joy and expansion and feeling like we can do anything and being on the precipice, like a desire for adventure. And so I just wanted to call that out because I think sometimes I can like catch myself leaning towards like warning you guys about the intense things. I'm like, no, I want to make a point of also really calling out the beautiful things too. So this is like a really beautiful part of March. And then Venus is a really big part of March's energy. Venus is the planet of love and beauty, creativity, and money. And Venus is moving into Aries on March 6th, where it will be through March 30th. And Venus does not like Aries. Venus is the ruler of Taurus and Libra is the opposite energy of Aries. Aries is like me, war, aggression, go for it, beat them up. And Libra is like peace, beauty, romance, collaboration, co creation, relationships. And so Venus is in its detriment in Aries. And when Venus moves into Aries, we might all feel a little bit more irritable. I think what Claire was saying about leaving space between trigger and reaction, like don't send the text, like take a second to just process the emotion and sit with what's coming up is really important for Venus in Aries. It's like we might just be a little more irritable in our relationships. We might be a little bit more impulsive with money. We might be feeling more resentful or bitter or angry in like the Venusian themes. It's just a little bit uncomfortable. It also signifies a new chapter of Venus's energy. It's starting a new loop around the zodiac wheel. So there's also like a optimism or newness or freshness, a feeling of a new chapter with Venus and Aries that can be just very like direct and brave as well. Those are the positive sides of it. And so, because Neptune and Saturn are hanging out in the early degrees of Aries, every planet that enters Aries is going to connect with them. So, on March 7th and 8th, and like the times, again, that kind of 6 day period around there, but felt most the 7th and the 8th, Venus meets up with Saturn and Neptune, which is very layered. And Saturn and Venus is like soul lessons around love, money, creativity, and partnership. Maybe taking those themes more seriously, maybe becoming more disciplined, maybe like making a budget or really look at giving yourself some tough love around themes coming up with these things. And then Saturn can also be like delays and timing and restrictions and feeling like, I just want to expand and go fast. And Saturn's like, not yet. But if we do our soul work, if we lean into the homework assignments that have been coming up, Saturn also likes to leave gifts. So there can also be like a payoff of your discipline, rewards for all your little unsexy steps you've been taking to take care of yourself. And then Venus meeting up with Neptune could not be any more different. Venus and Neptune are like lovers, like they love each other. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. So that's extra healing for the heart. Like Neptune is like soul level healing around the Venusian themes. It's dreamy, it's Venusian, it's romantic. Even though you might not have all the answers right now with love, even though there might be some fog around money and finances, there's also a deep layer of like healing and higher love and spiritual connection and seeing higher soul patterns and the way that these two come together. And the message that I got about that was that Saturn might be putting pressure on us to feel like we have to have everything figured out, like our goals and our tangible reality with love and money. And Neptune makes it impossible to figure it all out because it's like foggy and cloudy and misty and ethereal. And so we're in a bit of a holding pattern with this Saturn Neptune conjunction where Saturn's like, grow up and get a job and be for real. And Neptune is like, dream, create, play. There are no rules or boundaries. Love is all that exists. And they're hanging out together. And so these like two very different sides of us are like, I better figure it out. But also, like, my soul asks for this. And so we're in this moment where we're being asked to like validate both sides of us because they both serve a function in this very real physical world, and not make one mean something or make one more right than the other or judge the other, but just continue to take baby step after baby step that feels like a full heart yes. And that's like kind of the middle ground to help both. But Saturn is like, stay consistent, stay disciplined. And Neptune is like, keep feeling your way baby step by baby step.
So interesting. I'm excited to see how that will play out and just how that will feel because, like everything, life is such a balance. So I feel like there's a lot of lessons in balance in that duality.
Yeah. And it's like so heightened right now. And we're seeing that like Saturn and Neptune together has been really, really interesting because Saturn creates walls and Neptune dissolves them. I think the last time Saturn was in Neptune, the Berlin Wall came down.
Wow.
Yeah. I think so. I have to double check that. Yeah.
And so that's already happening, right? Like that's not just coming in March, that's happening now.
It's been in 2025 and 2026. Yeah. So we can see that like interesting boundaries and barriers dissolving. And so March 9th, Venus in Aries sextiles Pluto in Aquarius, just continuing. I was like, let me just organize all of what Venus is doing in one area because it's doing so much this month. So this is going to be big heart chakra upgrades. So Venus sextile Pluto in Aquarius is like personal power, transformation, new depths, beauty as a form of deep healing, love, healing through love, like all of those Venusian themes mixed with deep transformation. And I think there's also going to be, because Pluto's in Aquarius, a deep connection of like love transcending just us and our immediate family, like love for humanity, love for each other, love for community, which I think will be really beautiful. And then March 18th, Venus squares Jupiter. So this is going to be a little bit of like a skirt, like record scratch. And so this is just saying like, be careful of overdoing it, be careful of overspending, making too many plans, spreading yourself too thin. Like sometimes Venus just wants the pleasures and the joy and the beauty of life. And sometimes that takes it a little too far to an area that's out of balance. And so that's like Venus squared Jupiter is like, where is it just coming to excess, or where are things within the heart not given the actual energy and reaction and time that they need? Where are they blowing up and taking up all of your attention in a way that is not for your highest good? So moving on to March 15th, Mercury retrograde meets up with Mars in Pisces. And this is basically just a chance for the mind, Mercury, to meet up with the body and like our little energy pack, Mars, and get on the same page. Like, is our talk matching our walk? Is the way we're thinking matching how we're showing up in the world? Are our stories of self and what we're like, our narratives matching up with how we're moving forward? Are we doing what we say we're going to do? And this is a good time to do a lot of tasks that require a lot of cerebral energy, like planning things, strategizing things, researching things. It's like just a really good time to have a big mental boost of energy. This might also be a time where we like review old anger or ways that we express anger, or maybe just shift outdated energetic strategies of how we move forward. And we might just be reevaluating our methods of getting what we want and moving forward, and how we can attune to like us walking our higher selves talk. So then March 18th, we have the Pisces new moon, which technically ends eclipse season. But because the Pisces new moon is not an eclipse, but the Virgo full moon was. So technically, through the Libra full moon in April, like I was saying, is where we'll still feel a little eclipsy, but we're not in the official portal, but there's still some like energetic heightened energy. And so new moons are about like planting new seeds, and Pisces new moon is like the ultimate soul level healing bomb. Dr. Michael Lennox talks about it as like a psychic surgery, where like the moon is like going deep into our psyche and like shifting things, and just a really powerful moment. It's a deeply emotional moment. Take all of the Pisces themes that we were talking about before, like dreams and spirit and creativity and unconditional love and forgiveness and compassion and healing and psyche and all of those things, martyrdom, self sabotage, escapism, fantasy, and ask ourselves, like, where am I ready to make a new choice? Where do I want to plant a new seed within these Pisces themes? And I love that this new moon is happening when Pisces season is starting to wrap up and come to an end, because it's like we got to experience this whole Pisces mansion. And it's like, okay, it's your goodbye party, Pisces season. What do you want to say now that you've gone through this whole mansion? What did you learn? Where are you ready to plant new seeds in this area?
Is it always like that? No, it just falls that way this year.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, they kind of shift and move around in interesting ways. So, Mercury retrograde in Pisces will be exactly conjunct the North Node in Pisces at 8 degrees. So, this is like showing karmic soul level lessons with this new moon around communication, how we think, how we speak, perhaps big reflective portals, how we think and talk and dream about our dreams, our directions, our soul lessons, our stories that we tell ourselves, what we think is possible, how we think about spirituality, our psychic senses. And it might be a time where downloads or big ideas or aha moments come up. Like, it's a very important moment for like meditation, silence, and spaciousness, and to receive. With Mercury being right conjunct the North Node, it's like we are being on this new moon downloaded with like what we need to think about, how we need to talk, how to expand our minds, like what our guides want us to know. It's like a very, very, very powerful new moon and powerful conjunction.
I think sometimes when I hear about some of this stuff coming up, it can feel a little bit scary or intimidating, or feel like, oh, wow, that sounds really powerful, but also really intense. So, for that in particular, that new moon, like, do you have any suggestions of how to? I mean, I know it'll be different for all of us because there's so many factors, but do you have any suggestions about how to like support ourselves when energy like that is so intense and it goes so deep?
Yeah. So a lot of people don't realize how energetically sensitive they are until they get into astrology, and they realize like, oh, when I have these like time periods of feeling tired or wired or crunchy or off, it's corresponding with like a full moon, or it's corresponding with the new moon. And so I think like why astrology is so useful is it's not to take us out of our present moment truth and like put us into the future worrying or predicting. It's more so that we can plan ahead. And if possible, and this new moon is coming, or the Virgo full moon eclipse is coming, like I know, to bring up Dr. Michael Lennox again, like he doesn't take clients on the full moon. And I know that that's not like realistic for all of our lives or our schedules, but you can plan. Like if somebody on the Virgo full moon eclipse is like, hey, you want to come to this like 50-person dinner with me? It's like, no, I don't. I know that unless in the moment you're getting like a full heart yes, yeah. But if you feel yourself starting to talk yourself into it or feel like you should, and then you see it, it's the full moon, it's like, no, I actually am aware that I might need more time to devote to myself tonight. And so I think like when I say Pisces new moon and it's the Mercury retrogrades meeting up with the North Node, astrology can seem so sensationalized. There's a Pisces new moon and full moon every single year, and Mercury will meet up with the nodes every single year. So there's also an element of like, it's not just like this one shot to feel this energy or to do this work. Like it's always happening. The Saturn and Neptune stuff is not always happening. That's why I hit on it so much, because that's like a once in a lifetime like situation. But like Mercury is a fast moving planet, Venus is a fast moving planet. Like all of the inner planets are pretty fast. And so these things are happening all the time. It's not like a once in a lifetime thing where it's like, oh my God, what's going to happen? It's just a good time to be aware of like, okay, I know this super sensitive Pisces moon is happening. What if I take a dreaming tea before I go to bed? What if I make more space to pull cards, be alone, meditate, and be open? What if I give myself more space to be tired or sensitive or moody and need to be to myself? Like just kind of planning ahead to support yourself. And the more you do this work, the more you'll understand how that works for you.
That's so helpful and makes so much sense. I think instead of sometimes I can look at it almost like a warning or something I need to like look out for, or I'm like, uh oh, I'm going to be feeling so heavy that day, but more just like, okay, I know. I feel it so much on any full moon, like I'll be having a deep emotional experience and then realize it's a full moon and I'm like, oh, well, there you go. So yeah, just like having this so that we know I might need a little more self-care, or this is a great opportunity to journal, or let me really click into my dreams, I think is a really, really helpful. So thanks.
Of course. And yeah, astrology is a lot. And it takes like, I think I take for granted because I was raised with astrology. Like it's so normal to me, but I understand like all of these words and even just this power we give to spiritual jargon that makes it feel like it's more right than like our own feeling experience. And that's never how I want this to be. I just want it to give you guys like an energetic overview of the month so that you can plan your month in a more conscious way, or even tune into these episodes and like take notes or whatever. And then if you're having an experience, look back and be like, oh my gosh, yeah, that makes so much sense with what I'm going through. These are the key words and areas that were brought up. How can I reflect on that within myself? Or are there any blind spots in these areas coming up?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so this new moon has a lot of really beautiful stuff too. So the Mercury conjuncts the North Node, like we were talking about. Then the new moon in Pisces sextiles Uranus at exactly 28 degrees, and Uranus in Taurus. So this is like we are ready for change, we are ready for evolution, we are ready for growth. Where do we need to like learn to be more flexible? Where do we need to like review where we've been rigid or fixed? And how can we lean into expansion around like community, humanitarianism, money and resources, which is Taurus. And so there's like a lot of simpatico energy there. And then the last little layer I want to talk about with the new moon is Venus again, our girl, really busy in March. So if love and money stuff is coming up for you a lot, this is again an invitation to be like, okay, are there any unconscious money patterns going on with me? Do I need to budget? Do I need to restructure? Do I need to like allow myself to spend more on myself? Am I not taking care of myself at all? Or where's love and relationship patterns coming up for me a lot? It's just like a good invitation to just see what the jigsaw puzzle of energy the planets are making so that we can solve the puzzle in the easiest way. And so Venus in Aries is going to square Jupiter in Cancer during this new moon at 15 degrees. So this might be some tension with love, money, and relationships, all matters of the heart. Where might we have unrealistic expectations or ideals? Which isn't to say that we shouldn't have expectations or standards, but where might we be like constantly protecting ourselves by making them unrealistic or thinking someone should read our mind, or like where can we take responsibility for our part in the equation? Maybe we need to come back into balance. And because Jupiter is in Cancer, this might also be tied to healing themes of family dynamics, patterns that trigger our inner child, patterns that we witnessed with our family when it comes to love and money, and how we might be making new choices. And then again, with Venus and Aries, maybe some anger or frustration in love life coming up. And like I said earlier, Venus and Aries square Jupiter and Cancer is like, where might you be taking things to excess or going too far or making things too big? So then March 20th is the start of Aries season. And it's like we're waking up from a dream. It's a complete new energetic experience. That's what astrologer Eliza Kelly was talking about on season 2 when she came on for like one of our eclipse season episodes. And she's like, all of this like Saturn and Neptune and Pisces and all this Piscean energies, we can just be like floating through life. And then Aries is like this cold glass of water that's like, well, wake up. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm the creator. I'm ready to move forward. But it's because we went through that void of Piscean energy, of that deep feeling and processing and dreaminess, that then we're clear in Aries of like how we want to move forward. We're ready. We've rested and integrated and felt enough for that cardinal fire sign to move us forward. So this is the spring equinox. It's the start of the new year. It's the start of the new zodiac cycle. That's why for February and much of March, it's like, you guys don't worry about having it all figured out. Like, we're still in the very end of the cycle. It's still winter. And with the spring equinox on March 20th, the first day of Aries season, the spring has begun. Now we're starting to actually move forward. And what more wise, powerful, connected versions of self we are from that whole journey around the zodiac to make clear, new, instinctual, and connected choices in Aries season. So on this same day, Mercury goes direct. So that's another layer of this kind of like dreamy, out of it, disconnected, clunky, frustrating energy that resolves itself. So it's just like the light turns on, we're moving forward, we're seeing clearly. Aries is the first fire sign. It's the first sign of the zodiac. So we might be focusing on themes of like self expression, how we show up in the world, being the boss of our own life, going after what we want, energy. It's also like anger and aggression. I'll go into Aries energy a lot more in the April energy report, but we are collectively moving into a more active and activated time. So, again, we have Venus in Aries, we have Saturn and Neptune in Aries, the sun is now in Aries. So, just leave space between trigger and reaction. There might be a little more like heatedness. It's like, I just see this image of like honking your horn at someone and then they pull over and get out a gun. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, people might like escalate or get intense. And so it's just a good time to lean into that like energetic boost and optimism and excitement that the spring brings, and to be kind to people, because I think so many people are going through so much right now and have been, that Aries season is just another good reminder of like, just be kind to everybody. And so just like Venus met up with Neptune and Saturn, the sun in Aries is going to do the same because they're hanging out in the early degrees of Aries. So March 22nd, the sun meets up with Neptune, which is called the Neptune Cazimi. And it's basically whenever the sun meets up with any planet, it like illuminates the themes of that planet. It like lights it all up. And so the sun meeting up with Neptune is like, wow, we might feel more inspired and loving and dreamy and spiritually connected and creative and peaceful and ready to forgive and find compassion, or just processing some soul level healing. Again, this is a really good time to visit the water, to do your dream journal, to meditate, to pull cards, to ask spirit things, like to engage in your creative processes, to write poetry. And then March 25th, the sun meets up with Saturn, which is a very different energy. There's that duality theme that keeps coming in. And this is like giving us a new illuminated burst of energy towards our goals, how we can take slow and steady steps towards our accomplishments, rewards of how far we've been working and how hard we've been going will start to pay off. It's a good time to step into your responsibilities, to make game plans, to find discipline, to kind of give yourself a little tough love to stick with the things you know you need to be doing. And the duality that we spoke of in February is so interesting because as all of these planets travel through the zodiac and meet up with Saturn and Neptune, it's really integrating these two very different energies within ourselves. And the planets are modeling that for us as well. It's not just that Saturn and Neptune met up, it's that then the planets connect with both of them as well as they pass them, really invoking this sense of duality, asking to be held at once. And like these times are really asking for us to be structured and soft, dreamy and disciplined, really finding like the best balance of both of these planets and seeing that they actually can complement each other. Like opposites can attract for a reason. There can be a sense of the gifts and lessons complementing each other. Like the other one's weak spot is the other one's strength. And maybe by the time all the planets go through and meet up with Saturn and Neptune, we'll have found that within ourselves as well. Like see our weak spots, see our talents, and not make them mean anything about good or bad, but just see both sides of us and the gifts and the struggle in both.
And I love that so much. It's so important to not demonize those parts of ourselves and really see them for the gifts that they can be.
Absolutely. And so the very last part of March, thing I want to talk about is March 26th. Venus in Aries meets up with Chiron in Aries. And I know Venus has been busy this month, as I was saying. So Chiron is that inner wound, Venus is the heart. And when they meet up, it can be a time of like deep heart healing, making a more healed choice around love. The Aries themes, again, are like action, being the boss. There's a level of like power with Aries energy. I think there's also a level of pureness as the first sign of the zodiac. Aries is like the newborn consciousness. And there's a level of chivalry to Aries energy that's like naturally connected to what's right, what's wrong. That might come up. And so this might bring up inner child healing as Aries is really connected to that. It might bring up old anger, frustration, or resentment. It might bring up patterns of how we deal with conflict within love, money, and relationships. So this is just a really powerful meetup for heart healing, for scarcity consciousness healing, for all of those Venusian themes. How can we make a more healed choice? How can we stay open to deeper love? How can we be more vulnerable? How can we know that we have our own backs? This might also bring up, as Libra is like the sign of being in a relationship and Aries is the sign of the individual. Again, there might be themes of like being in singlehood more powerfully or having our own backs, maybe finding forgiveness, processing old anger. And anger, especially for women, is an emotion that's so discouraged. And Venus and Aries meeting up with Chiron and Aries might be like a sacred reclamation of rage or relating to rage and anger in a different way or feeling comfortable to express anger. It's actually really interesting because I had a client session today and we were talking about how like she grew up in a family where there was like a lot of anger, and her anger, or when she would express her needs or her resentment building up, was never really received and nothing really changed. And then she kept attracting romantic partnerships where that same pattern was happening. Like she'd get angry or upset, but nothing would change. And it was like recreating that childhood pattern. And I feel like that's so common for so many women, especially, but really anybody, where it's like, I'm expressing my anger and it's not feeling heard, or I'm stewing with anger for myself, but nothing externally is changing. And I think that for some people, this Venus meeting up with Chiron and Aries is going to be like a really deep exploration of our relationship to anger and conflict and confrontation.
Interesting. Yeah, anger is such a tricky emotion, I think, for all of us. But definitely, I think women don't feel as invited into that energy for sure. And it's just so tricky to navigate. And I know when my anger comes up, it can be really overwhelming. And it often is tied to a lot of sadness, I think. So, yeah, be gentle with yourselves as you all navigate that. And hopefully it can lead to some like better insights.
Mhm. And 2 other keywords I wanna say with this Aries Chiron Venus mix up is watch out for impulsiveness. Like Venus and Aries can be very impulsive. A lot of people with this placement or Aries ruling their 7th house, so Libra risings, can get married really young or jump into relationships really quickly or spend money really fast. Just watch out for impulsiveness and like what is that impulsiveness protecting you from and how can you go deeper with that? And then another part of this mix might be healing your relationship to timing, like meeting someone and falling in love really fast or going really fast or kind of letting that run away with you might be like a shade of impulsiveness that might be coming up to be healed differently. Like what story is making you feel like you have to go that fast? Like, what would happen if you took a step back or left space to see what would happen or how they would fill it? I'm feeling called to say, too, with all of this like Venusian energy for March, we have an episode 134, that's all about like dating and love life and relating to it in the most powerful way and what I learned in my years of being single and how I met my husband and all of these things. And so I highly recommend checking out that episode with Claire and I for this month too, because I think it will be a nice little companion to everything Venus is doing.
Nice. Oh, yeah. That was a good episode.
It was kind of like an interesting one because it was really early on in the pod and I wasn't in my regular spot. So I'm like, the video footage is kind of questionable, but the actual content I think has a lot of really good gems. And a lot of you guys wrote in were like, I broke up with my boyfriend because of this episode.
Whoa. Maybe we should do another one, Might be time for another on that topic.
I know. You know what might be fun? Maybe you guys can write in some love life questions or relationship questions to contact at magichourpod.com. I also have a love life workshop called Working with Your Angels to Attract a Soulmate Connection. That's on angelsandamethyst.com. Code 333 gives you $33 off, and it's a complete workshop of like literally all of the tools from shadow work to dating apps to witchcraft that I use to navigate my single time and meet the love of my life who I'm married to. So, if that calls to you, I highly recommend checking that out. And I also think the deeper you go with your astrology practice, the less it's sort of similar to intuitive development, like the less uh the what am I trying to say? Like the deeper you go with this knowledge, the more vast you realize it is. Like I think the imagination with astrology does the same thing as with intuitive development, which is a big block where it like thinks so linearly, but the planets don't necessarily think linearly. Spirit isn't linear. Like these things are happening in these bigger pattern ways, but our mind wants to feel in control. So it's like, I'm probably going to have a panic attack this day. I'm probably not going to sleep well this day. I'm probably going to have a breakup. I'm probably going to have a hard day. But that's all imagination and projection from the mind. And where might that pattern be happening towards neutral information outside of these like kind of esoteric spaces? So I think that like as you go deeper, you have such respect for the intricacies of astrology. And it's like these episodes are almost hard for me because one of these transits that I'm talking about could be a full hour episode to really do it justice. I'm giving the key points, but there's like always so much deeper that I could go and how it's connecting to other things that day. It's like every day's astrology could be its own big thing. These are like overviews. And with something as deep as astrology, overviews are hard. And I think that's why like energetic themes for the month can be hard too, because it's like there's the energy is so big, but because it's so big and we're all kind of like facets of these multidimensional diamonds all together, like an individual facet, there will be pieces of it that connect for you and pieces that resonate. And that's the piece that you're meant to carry or look at more deeply. And that's like another thing too, is like, don't put pressure on yourself to be perfect. Don't feel like you have to like hit every point. Like just flow and trust. And the things that are really sticking out for you as themes, that's what you're meant to hear.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a good point. It doesn't need to have any pressure on it at all. It's just what resonates with us is the signpost, and take that and leave the rest.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think sometimes you might re listen to this after March and it will make more sense than listening March 1st or 2nd or whenever this comes out. So that's what I say too. Like, even with my angel messages that I share for the month on my Instagram page, I say save these and read them after the month is done, and you will understand it even more.
Yeah, it's for sure, for sure.
Yeah, and it's very rarely how our mind thinks it will play out. Like, it's always, it can be, but it's very rare. It's always something outside of the mind, which is where intuition operates, is outside of that linear controlled consciousness that tries to predict every single thing, but it's not predicting, it's guessing based off of old patterns. And that has nothing to do with this work.
So that's something I needed to hear today, just in general. It's so true how our mind does that. Such a good reminder.
Yeah. So I really hope that this episode is helpful. I know that the energy of February and March are a lot. We are sending you guys so, so much love, and we will see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Magic Hour podcast. We are so happy you're here. I absolutely love to connect with you all on Instagram at angels_and_amethyst. I love to get your thoughts on each episode, and I get so excited to get your emails to contact@magichourpod.com. Make sure you're subscribing to Magic Hour so you never miss a new episode in your inbox. We have so many amazing guests right around the corner as always. Please make sure to send your 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to contact@magichourpod.com, and we'll enter you into an angel reading giveaway with me, which is just my favorite thing, to get to connect with the hummingbird community in that way. You get a bonus entry if you also send a screenshot of your YouTube subscription, and also a screenshot of sharing us on your story and tagging us at Magic Hour Podcast on Instagram. The next giveaway will happen when we hit 288 5-star reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We so appreciate you sharing the podcast with other magical people, and it really helps us keep this project alive. To learn more about me, my work, to book a reading with me, to take a workshop, please visit angelsandamethyst.com. And remember, you are magic.